Chinese gangs are overtaking U.S. weed market, and the CCP connection raises alarms. Chinese gangs are behind thousands of illegal weed farms across the U.S., sparking fears that the Chinese Communist Party could become New cannabis kingpins. These gangs have set up thousands of illicit weed farms across the U.S. They begin to challenge Mexican cartels for supremacy as America's cannabis kingpins. Authorities in Oklahoma, Oregon, California, New Mexico, and Maine have all been battling a surge in Chinese weed farms, some thought to be linked to criminal gangs known as triads. The spread is seemingly uncontainable, with police in Penobscot County, Maine, last week arresting 3 Chinese nationals at a weed farm, seizing 40 pounds of cannabis alongside $3,700 in cash. It is thought to be one of around 270 weed farms worth more than $4 billion that have sprung up across the state since it legalized marijuana in 2020. Local law enforcement has carried out multiple busts already this year. Meanwhile, around 2,000 suspicious marijuana plants in Oklahoma have been linked to China, accounting for 2/3 of weed farms under surveillance, state narcotics police said. Earlier this month, a Chinese ringleader was sentenced to life in prison after pleading guilty to fatally shooting 4 people at an illegal medical marijuana operation in Oklahoma. Mexican cartels have long dominated the market for illegal weed in the U.S., but officials are now warning that Chinese funding for such operations is skyrocketing. It's not known whether the money is coming from groups connected to the Chinese Communist Party. Experts have pointed out that triads are usually only allowed to operate if they agree to act as informal enforcers for the government. Last year, a Homeland Security memo leaked to the Daily Caller attributed the growth to Asian transnational criminal organizations, with one official raising the possibility that profits are being funneled back to Beijing. These immigrant workers have alleged that they were lured into northern New Mexico under false pretenses and forced to work 14-hour days at an illegal marijuana plant backed with funds from a China-based energy giant, according to a lawsuit filed last year. The operation was shut down by police in 2020, but those behind it moved to Oklahoma, taking many of their workers with them before the farm was also busted in 2022. The crackdown in southern and western states has put forward as one reason for the explosion in weed farms in Maine. Several years, Maine residents have spoken about the surge in marijuana odor-filled homes popping up across the state, including near daycares and schools. Chinese owners who speak little to no English have allegedly earned a notorious reputation throughout Maine for spending thousands on cultivating equipment, namely by demanding items from their phones. Homes have been identified as part of the extensive statewide apparatus appear to be found in everyday sleepy suburbs, yet are said to have plaguing their neighborhoods as strong marijuana smell emanates even from a distance away and are fitted with extensive electrical upgrades. Experts estimate that a standard 2,500 square foot home can produce upwards of $3 million of marijuana per year. The profits are allegedly sent back to China, while some of the ill-gotten gains remain in the U.S. to keep up criminal activities. According to an investigation by Maine Wire into 100 of the identified sites, were all purchased since marijuana was legalized by single Chinese adults, primarily from New York and Massachusetts. Though the homes are allegedly filed under single names, many are tied together by factors such as car registrations, indicating they might be connected and controlled by an umbrella organization. Members say it has become a near monthly sight to see a van with New York or Massachusetts plates arrived at these pot-filled homes. In January, Maine authorities raided an illegal Chinese-run marijuana operation in the aptly named town of China in Kennebec County. Chinese-owned plants have emerged at a time when the marijuana industry is skyrocketing in the U.S., opening up million-dollar revenue streams for many, including the Amish community, who were detailed in an investigation last year. Nationwide, Homeland Security has reportedly found a total of 749 properties linked to Asian TCOs, indicating Maine has become a particular hotbed for CCP activity. Comes amid growing frustration at the failure of law enforcement to crack down on the illicit operations, with Homeland Security allegedly pleading with Maine police to help them gather intel on the properties in September. Sheriff of Penobscot County, Troy Morton told the Daily Caller there are hundreds of these operations occurring throughout the state. It's upsetting to those who live here near these operations and even those who are following Maine laws and procedures. As Morton was referencing, particularly Maine's law-abiding weed industry say the infiltration of triad weed has been a disaster. A person inside the legal industry told the Maine Wire, I say they function like mafia. It's true. Have a very intricate network. In the legal weed industry say that they've been forced to become extremely selective to avoid using Chinese-grown marijuana, as it often found to contain harmful chemicals, including pesticides. Harmful elements to the product is another example of the struggle law enforcement have had in clamping down on illegal marijuana grown by illegal immigrants. Regardless of where the individuals are from, the true problem involves conflicting state and federal laws, Morton said. Also have little to no oversight, allowing for criminal activity to occur at a high degree. What the one thing wrong with Chinese pot is that half hour later, you want to smoke again. I'm Todd Egan with High 9 News. What do you guys think?
Oh boy, the CCP onto the THC. Boy, I don't even know. I don't think this is news. I think this is just another story of stuff that we've heard about. But the reality is there's a lot going on in this story. It's not just about cannabis. It's a lot about geopolitics. And I think that there's a reason why, there are so many organizations that might be not on the legal tip, but I don't want to say nefarious. I think some of these people are just legitimately people. I think that there are some there's some issues with some of these organizations coming into this industry and exploiting it like the way they are. But at the same time, that's exactly why every week on the show when I get on here, I talk about descheduling cannabis. If the government took time to actually reflect on what's happening and to understand that there's a huge discrepancy in the taxes that they should be receiving from a national industry rather than a state lifted industry. It's simple to me. It's really a numbers game, and the amount of money they spend on enforcement versus the amount of money they lose by keeping cannabis in this purgatory of the legislature is a real travesty, and it's just exacerbating issues like this. So you want to stop those problems? There's one solution: deschedule, make it federally legal, and start this industry on the tip that it should be.
So a couple of things here. Number one, this is it's unfortunate, but it's bound to happen. Just like Saman said, the way our economy is set up, you're gonna see more shit like this. I think it's unfortunate that it's inevitable that legal Chinese operators are going to be, or folks of Chinese descent are going to be discriminated against because of this. On a lighter note, Chinese were the first ones with a cannabis trade in the first place. They taking the shit back. And
I mean, look,
and where the fuck did they find that picture for this story? What is that mess?
I mean, the Chinese bought most of our bonds. Okay, the Chinese government doesn't really care about intellectual property. Allegedly, a lot of the precursors for fentanyl are being manufactured in China, and we're worried about we're worried about the weed industry, and then this whole notion that, because of the registration of cars and this and that, don't we know that culturally affiliated groups tend to stay culturally affiliated when they come to a country that is supposed to theoretically welcome legal immigration and people coming to this country? Give me, you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, whatever. And so I would say there's some tinges here of what I would consider to be kind of racist tones, because unless you're going to speak to it and show me receipts and show me facts, I'm just a little bit of a skeptic, not because I don't believe that organized crime exists,
Thank you
not
for
because I
saying
don't
that,
think
Yarrow.
that organized crime tries to get into regulated cannabis. But it's interesting to me that we're talking about the brown and the yellow folks. I mean, again, because there's a lot of organized crime in this country that just isn't brown or yellow. And so this one's a little hard for me. I mean, there's no doubt that there is organized crime in both regulated and unregulated cannabis. But I also believe this is a country where people can come work their ass off and theoretically have the opportunity to further their own goals and their families' aims. And if we're saying that just because people speak Chinese and grow weed that they're criminally affiliated, that seems like a pretty broad stroke to be painting with.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Yarrow. All of these stories that we've been seeing, like there could be an issue, but we have not seen any receipts.
We've had two with receipts. We've had two with receipts. We had the Maine story and the Oklahoma story. Both had receipts.
Oklahoma story had 0 receipts, Jason.
There was
0.
tons of receipts. They were talking about the asset forfeiture that they took. They took millions of dollars.
No, they did not.
Yeah, they did.
No, they did not. In the Oklahoma story, they had 0 receipts. It was just
how do you have 0 receipts when you seize over $1 million in cash?
All these Chinese farms popping up, and they're all tied to the CCP. They had 0 receipts that they produced when they were saying this stuff. And we've all seen plenty of cops get on the news and say a bunch of stuff and paint.
I agree with that part. I just don't get how seizing $1 million is not receipts.
Well, but the reason why it's not receipts, Jason, is because any evidence that is used in an allegation is different than what is eventually proved in a criminal trial.
They did go through all that.
They didn't go through the details. They said there was like $1 million in cash or some shit.
No, they didn't go through all that, Jason, because that guy hasn't been proven guilty yet, and they were making statements to the press about a pending criminal process. And remember, his lawyer was like, "Oh, he doesn't have a job. He lives at his girlfriend's house."
Yeah, you're
Don't
correct.
start with me. I follow these details.
Yep. Good job, Yarrow. Good job.
And so what makes this country great, and one of the very few things that makes this country great, is this notion of innocence until proven guilty.
That's correct.
Okay. And anytime we have law enforcement or prosecutors playing to the press, we need to wonder why they think their job isn't just to do their job and to stay in their lane and to create guilty verdicts through a jury process. And anything outside of that, we can cover it. But let's cover it with a grain of salt the size of the Rock of Gibraltar, because we know.
I do have to say, Yarrow. We don't call you and the Massachusetts commissioner. Got to stop calling Chinese people yellow. We ain't on.
I did not call Chinese people yellow. I said brown and yellow skin. And so what I was trying to talk about is that rainbow of colors.
Hold on, Wiz Khalifa did a whole song about that.
With this notion around the different colors of races. And so I don't find that to be disparaging. I think you need to play back the tape, listen to the nuance of what I said, and understand that what I'm talking about is racism for organized crime for people whose skin color is not white.
Yarrow just means everyone has jaundice, Rico. Don't worry, it's all good. We don't have to beat him up. We don't got to beat him up.
I'm gonna name my second born Jaundice.
But let me just bring up one more point here before we get off this.
All right, come on.
I just think it's hilarious that it's like everyone's so worried about like Chinese nationals coming into like in the pot industry. Meanwhile, we've literally sold every pig farm, chicken farm, and cattle farm to a Chinese company who is based in China. So why are we concerned about this? Why is this news? We've literally done this to our entire country, all across the country, all the farms, all the farm.
NAFTA.
Mm-hmm.
We've sold it all. This is what the American dream is.
Just like the last story, when you tie it to the pot industry, now it's
salacious.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, exactly.
George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Is their fault. Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush.
Yeah. Say Chinese and pot in the same sentence, then speak.
All I have to say,
everybody. I just say be careful. You might want to start learning Mandarin or Cantonese. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you will get paid a lot more.
I don't think the allegation is is wrong. I just are not hearing any facts, and so it just feels like when we decide that facts don't need to be a part of allegations, boy, that's a really slippery slope.
Well, there was a Chinese
Jason
ringleader
always says.
sentenced to life in prison after he pleaded guilty to fatally shooting 4 people. There's that guy.
Yeah, it's like Jason says, don't let facts become the enemy of the good.
Yep, that's right. Don't let the good become the enemy of the bad, Rico.
So, Todd, are you talking about that guy in Oklahoma who went a little postal and then just you talking about that guy?
Okay.
Yeah, that guy. That guy.
Yeah. So
apparently he's a Chinese ringleader.
See, look at that. And on that,
No, I really like that movie Shang-Chi too.
Since
Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings, that's my shit.
Since it is Super Tuesday, I guess the only thing we have to do before we go to the commercial is for me to say China.
China.